Okay, today I want to talk about implementing Windows Server 2008 as a certificate authority out on the network so that the certificate authority running on the Windows Server 2008 can issue certificates to client machines so that when those clients request certificates of the server, they can send those certificates to the client, and the clients can request additional certificates so that the communication between the client and the secure websites that are created on the web server, which is IIS 7 in this case, will function normally here. Alright, so I'm actually logged in as administrator here on this Windows Server 2008 machine, and let me right click on the computer and click on Properties and see that one of the things that I did initially here is this particular server was called a Win Server 2008 by computer name. I've gone ahead and changed the name of that of this server rather to Cert Auth, and the reason for that is once you set up your server with the role of Certificate Authority or CA, any certificates that the web server issues during the process of encrypting and creating the public and private key, they're going to associate the computer name of that server with it. So you're not going to be able to change the name of that server running as CA after the fact. You have to do it ahead of time. So this is one of the things that we have to do, is change the name on the server, and I've already done that here. Alright, so I can show you here. Let me go ahead and close that. If I click Start button and go to Administrative Tools, there is no certificate authority here as in Administrative Tools. So this particular machine, the Windows Server 2008, is not currently serving as a certificate authority machine in that role. So in order to make that happen, what I need to do is get on Server Manager. So I want to go right click on Computer, select Manage, and I want to get into Server Manager and add the role of Certificate Authority here to the server. So give a few minutes here. The snap-in needs to come up. And it's coming up now. Alright, so we're in Server Manager, and I want to come down to the area called the Role Summary. And let's see here, give me a second. Alright, and let's go to, there we are, let's go to Roles. Alright, and we want to, well, let's first of all notice here under Role Summary, like I said, this server here is serving as a file server, print server, and a Windows Server IIS 7 server for websites. Now I want to add a role, so let me click on Add Roles, and I'm going to skip this page here, click Next. What we need to do here is we want to create this as an Active Directory Certificate Services role. Even though this Windows Server 2008 is a standalone and it is not going to be joining to an Active Directory Domain Services domain, we still need to select this box to add the Active Directory Certificate Services to this role here. Alright, and so I'm going to go ahead and click that box. We already have the web server. It's a file server. It's a web server already, so we don't need to click that here. Let's click Next, and it's telling us a little bit about the Active Directory Certificate Services here. Let's click Next. One of the other things that we'll need to do here is we'll need to select the Certification Authority role and add the required features. And the reason we need to do that for the web enrollment is we want to be able to allow the clients to request certificates from the server and the server to issue certificates to the clients. So that role needs to be enabled. So let's click Next here. We're telling the setup type is this is a standalone server, not connected to a domain. This is going to be the root CA or certificate authority. We could set it up as a subordinate, but that means that a root CA would already have to exist and that we would be acting in the capacity of a subordinate, but we're not going to do that. So let's click Next here. We want to create a new private key because we're not using existing private keys here. So let's click Next. And we're not going to change the defaults here. We want to use 2028 RSA encryption, SHA-1, which is the hash, and we want to click Next here. We want to call this certificate common name for this CA as certauth-CA-ZZZ. Okay, and let's click Next here. And then the next thing it's going to ask us to do is the validity period for this certificate authority. We want to set this certificate authority up on this Windows Server 2008 for a period of at least 5 years here. So that means that the CA expiration for this server will expire on 9/20/2019. All right, so let's click Next. And the certificate database that's set up here is located in this area under C Windows System 32 cert log, and here the certificate log location is as well System 32 cert log here. So let's click Next. And now it's asking us to ensure that the web server IIS is set up. If we hadn't already set it up, we would do that here. And now this screen tells us the role services that are currently existing for this server. We don't need to really do anything here, so we're going to click Next as well. And then finally, we get a confirmation screen that Active Directory certificate services on this standalone root CA are going to be installed with these particular credentials. And then we're going to come down and look at this. The rest of it here, it just tells us basic information about the web server. So let's go ahead and click Install. All right, so now it's going to go out and install the Active Directory Certificate Authority Services on this server. This is going to take a few minutes, so I'm going to go ahead and stop the video and come back when it's complete. Okay, the process for adding the Certificate Authority role here on this server has completed, and you can see on the results page under Installation Results that we do have a successful installation of Active Directory Certificate Services. So I'm going to go ahead and close this screen. And what I want to do is I want to go out and I want to get into the role of the administrative tools. So let's click on Start Administrative Tools and go into the Certificate Authority interface here. And when it comes up, I'll show you a couple of things and talk about it for a moment. And now it's loading the certificate authority, certification authorities here, and it brings up this CertServe window for me here. And if I expand that, you'll see that the only certificate authority assigned to this server is the certauth-CA-ZZZ here, and that's good. And then underneath here you have 4 folders, one revoked, one issued, pending, and failed. And the significance of those folders is this. When a certificate authority is installed here, these 4 folders represent what's going to happen to the requests that come in from the user when the user submits a request from the browser out on the network to the certificate authority itself. When a client machine and a user submits the request via the browser to the server, the initial request goes into the pending requests folder here. All right, and I'll demonstrate that here in a moment. And at this point, the certificate authority administrator will open that folder manually, and then he'll have to make a decision on what to do with the various requests. He can either grant the request for the authority, certificate authority certificate, or he can issue them out, and those will be then moved from the pending request folder into the issued certificates folder if issued, and into the failed request folders if denied. The CA administrator can also deny a certificate request incoming to the server, and there could be various reasons that he would do that. He wasn't able to validate the requester, and so just basically denied the request. Okay, but for the most part, on a local area network, that wouldn't happen. It wouldn't be a requirement here. All right, and then in addition to that, if the CA administrator later on wanted to take a certificate that he had previously issued to a client and get rid of it, he's not going to be able to delete the certificate, but what he can do is revoke that certificate so that it's no longer functional for SSL purposes. And what would happen is those would get revoked, and it would move from the issued to the revoked certificates folder. All right, so now that the CA is officially working here on this server, let's go out to the web server and let's issue some requests to the server and see what happens. But first of all, let's talk about the firewall. Since this is running on the server and we've got IIS 7 installed, their incoming requests are going to be on port 80. So there's not going to be any need for any firewall modifications here. So we're not going to have to open up any holes in the firewall itself. So what I want to do is I want to go out here to the Internet Information Services Manager. I want to open it up and get into the certificate authority itself. This is the cert auth. I'm going to expand it. All right, and expand the sites and expand the default website. And you'll notice we have a folder here called the cert serve home. Okay, this is how client machines out on the network are going to request certificates from the certificate authority itself. All right, so the first thing we need to do here before we go out on that client machine, let's look and see what the IP address is of the server. I'm going to click on the start button and bring up a command prompt. All right, and get a command prompt up and then issue an ipconfig command and to see what the IP address is here of this server. It's 192.168.1.175, so we can remember that. All right, and so let's go out on a client machine and let's bring up Firefox web browser. And so to make a request to the server for a certificate, remember we're going to have to go to the cert serve folder on the request via the browser. So let's go ahead and click in here and let's type in http //192.168.1.175 / serve and hit enter. And what that's going to do is going to access the cert serve home on the CA server, and should come up here momentarily. All right, so we get this welcome, and so we're in the Microsoft Active Directory Certificate Services, and here is the name of the CA here that we created when we implemented the role of certificate authority on this server, cert authority-ca-zzz. All right, to request a certificate, we come down here to select the task. You'll notice we have the request a certificate. We also have the view the status of a pending certificate. So once we request a certificate, we'll have to come back here on this browser, on this machine, to view the status of a pending certificate. And normally this particular interface allows for at least 2 days for the CA administrator to take action on that certificate request. It can be up to 10 days. But the important thing to remember here is it has to be done on the same machine using the same browser. It cannot be done on a different machine from a different browser, or you won't be able to access it and view it or to pull it down. All right, so let's go ahead and request a certificate here. So let's click on the request a certificate. And we can select the various types of certificates here, either a web browser certificate or an email protection, or select an advanced certificate request. In this particular video, I only want to talk about web browser certificates here. So let's click on web browser certificate, and it's going to open up this web browser certificate information page. And so I'm going to type in Jim Smith. And so I want to take jsmith@example.com. The company is example.com, and the department here, let's say, is the IT department. The city is Asheville, North Carolina, and the country or region here is US. And let's go ahead and leave this key strength alone and click submit. Now it's creating that key pair, so it's gone out and created the key pair, private and public key for that certificate from the CA, and it took just a few seconds to do that, as you can tell. It says your certificate request has been received. However, you must wait for an administrator to issue the certificate you requested. Your request ID is 2. All right, and please return to this website in a day or two to retrieve your certificate. Okay, so now we need to shift roles again and take on the role there of the CA administrator and take action on this request that just came in from the browser out on the client machine. So let's go back to the web server, CA server in this case, and let's take action here on this particular certificate request that came in. Okay, so I've gone back out to the server, and I've gone back to that search serve interface that we have set up here on the server. So as a CA administrator, I can take a look at the request that came in and take action on it. So when that request comes in, remember it comes into the pending request folder. So let me click on that. And remember, if you recall, the ID number was number 2. So here's the request ID number 2. Let me double click on it, right click on it rather, and let's view the attributes on that. So here's the request itself. It's coming in from jsmith@example.com, from Jim Smith, and it's coming from Asheville, North Carolina. So as a certificate authority administrator, I would look at that and say, yeah, I know Jim Smith. He's on a browser connected to the network. He's requesting a certificate from me. Yeah, so I'm going to go ahead and issue that certificate. So let me cancel this. And the way to do that would be to right-click on the certificate request and select all tasks, and let's issue, not deny, but issue that certificate. When I issue the certificate to Jim Smith, it's going to leave the pending requests folder, and it's going to go to the issued certificates folder, or it should. In this particular case, for some reason, it failed. So let me go back and fix that. Okay, one of the things I had to do to fix the problem was, first of all, as the CA administrator, I had to get on the phone with Jim Smith and ask him to reissue a request to the server after I implemented the fix so that I could go ahead and approve or issue that certificate to him, and that it would go into the issued certificates folder. And the problem is on Windows Server 2008 standard, not 2008 R2, there is an issue with the CA web enrollment interface, and I had to do some research on that and actually go into, as administrator, a command prompt and issue a command line code into the server that would then fix this issue. So it happens to be a certificate authority web enrollment fix that has to be implemented on it. And so that has been done. Jim Smith has come back with another request which went into the pending request folder, and then I right-clicked on that particular certificate here in this interface, and I issued that certificate, and now it's correctly showing up in the issued certificates folder instead of the failed. So this is kind of good that this happened here, because what it proves is that in the real world, a CA wouldn't just probably go ahead and issue that certificate. He'd get on the phone or contact the requester and confirm that requester's identity. What I did here was get on the phone with Jim Smith and confirm that the initial request was failed because of a problem, and then ask him to reissue after I implemented the fix on the server, which I did. And that's considered what's called an out-of-band confirmation to the requester before it's actually issued. All right, so we've gone ahead and I've issued it here. If we double-click or right-click rather and view the attributes on this particular request, you can see that what the attributes are here for that. in this interface. And so let me cancel that. And let's see. All right. And you'll notice here that this particular request that came in was incremented one beyond the one that was there earlier. That was actually in the failed request, which is number 2. This one is in the this is number 3. All right, so let's go back out to the client machine here, and what Jim saw on his end was that he's going to have to return to this same website using the same browser and same computer within 10 days to accept the certificate. So within, let's say, a couple of days, Jim's going to come back up here and he's going to type in http://192.168.1.175/certserve. And he's going to get this page again, except it's going to be the home page, and it's going to present this information to him. And this time, instead of requesting the certificate, he's going to view the status of a pending request. So what he would do is click on this link, and the certificate that he requested the second time around is going to be time-stamped later than the initial request. So it's going to be this request here. So he's going to click on this certificate request, and he's going to see that this particular certificate was issued to him. So at this point, what he can do is he can actually install the certificate on his browser. And so it's telling us, if you click on that link, that your personal certificate has been installed, and you should keep a backup copy of that certificate. So we're going to click OK here. And now the certificate for Jim Smith has been issued to him and is now incorporated into his web browser. So what happens in the end here is this whole process that we just showed you is that these are web browser certificates that were issued to Jim Smith. And so in the future, when Jim gets on his computer and fires up his Mozilla Firefox web browser and communicates with the server for accessing any secure sites using SSL encryption, the server is going to recognize Jim Smith's computer and his browser and is not going to have any issues with that and will allow that to take place. So this has been a video on how to request a certificate and how certificates are dealt with by the CA administrator once they are requested from a web browser out on the network, communicating with a web server and a Windows Server 2008 standard platform acting as a CA.